Well, thank you everyone. I'm Jennifer Kurtz. I am from the National Renewable Energy Lab, or NREL, and I'm going to be talking about our hydrogen and electrolyzer fuel cell research capabilities, but focusing on the integration research capabilities. So for any of you who are looking for Mike, I might disappoint for just a little bit, and then I think he's going to be after me. We're a little bit behind. So to talk about the systems integration research capabilities for hydrogen and fuel cells, I want to start out with our research platform called ARIES. It's Advanced Research on Integrated Energy Systems. I'm going to give you an overview of that and then dive into some of the capabilities specific to hydrogen and fuel cells. I want to give you 2 or 3 quick examples of the research that is utilizing these capabilities, and then have a quick wrap up on what's next. So to start with ARIES, again, it's the Advanced Research on Integrated Energy Systems. It's a research platform. This research platform is set up to have multiple sizes, scales, and different technologies, both with physical assets and virtual assets, so that we can do deep dives into technology, but we can also look at how it interacts and how it works within a system. Working within a system is necessary for successful deployment and to actually help us accelerate our goals for deployment. A couple of the things that we talk about in terms of what value does an integrated energy system research platform provide. That looking at it from a holistic systems perspective. So it's not just whether the technology can perform as designed. It's what does the technology do when a situation may be out of design conditions. It may be a failure, it may be a disruption. So think about it from the whole system perspective. We're also looking at the physical and virtual connection point. So as researchers at NREL, we know that we can't build everything. And so we have to connect in with the virtual capabilities as well. And then the last piece that I want to highlight before moving on is data-driven insights. And so this is key for different stakeholders. Maybe it's regulators, maybe it would be technology developers, maybe it's utilities, maybe it's communities thinking about it. But how do we use this research platform to make sure that we have that data-driven understanding of the system performance, the technology performance, and the opportunities? So this is just a snapshot of our hydrogen research capabilities here at, in Denver at NREL. So a few of the things that we start with, we're going to touch on grid and renewable coupling. This is one of the reasons why we're looking at hydrogen at the National Renewable Energy Lab. How does it connect in with wind, solar, geothermal, other renewable generation options? How does it connect in with the grid? Hydrogen production. This is primarily around electrolysis. I'm just going to talk to you about more of our applied research. There are early stage research activities around different production methods or different electrolyzer materials, cell materials. Distribution and storage. If you've heard from the Hydrogen Fuel Cell Technology Office, there are a few things that they think about: make, move, use, and store. So that store, the distribution, where are you moving it, why are you moving it, where did you make it? Those are all things that factor into this distribution and storage. So you think about scale, and maybe we're looking at small scale with the attention, the focus, and the opportunities with hydrogen right now. That's going to increase very quickly. So we need to think about distribution and storage. End-use applications. If we aren't factoring in end-use applications into the research activities, we're missing the point. The market demand, the drivers for applications are really going to set up that highly integrated, highly dynamic, full system. With the applications, we're thinking about transportation for sure. I'm going to give you an example of that. Industrial applications, blending with natural gas. There's a wide range of things that we're considering for end-use applications. And then safety and sensors. We saw a talk not too long ago that talked about safe operations, safe design, safe manufacturing pieces. We all know that the safety is going to be critical. It has been an area for a great deal of research. It's going to continue to stay that way. Thinking about the safety sensors the safety monitoring. How do you go through and proactively identify a situation that could move into an unsafe status? So those are pieces that we're thinking about with the safety and sensors. There's two main facilities that I want to talk to you about in terms of hardware research capabilities. One is the Energy Systems Integration Facility. And has anybody been to NREL's Colorado campus? You have, all right, great, a couple of people. So this is on our, what we call our South Table Mountain campus. And the purpose of Energy Systems Integration Facility is to do systems integration, looking at individual technologies. So there's an electrical infrastructure connected with this facility, and then we tie in the fuels around hydrogen production, also the infrastructure and fueling. So in the diagram, we've got light duty fueling. That's where our research capabilities started. The heavy duty fueling is where we see a lot of the fueling infrastructure research right now. And then in the snapshot in the upper right-hand corner, we're looking at an actual picture of the heavy-duty hydrogen fueling infrastructure equipment. This is a prototype dispenser with a prototype hose and nozzle. And then we're also looking at north of 80 kilograms for gaseous storage at high pressure. With electrolysis specifically, I want to touch on the full range of research activities, and that's from the cell or early stage, the small scale R&D. This would be materials investigation. How do you look for reducing cost without sacrificing durability? Then there's a large scale RD&D, so the research demonstration and deployment piece. That's where you get into multiple megawatts of electrolyzer, and you're thinking about the full scale integration and operations of that. In between is what we call translational R&D. And this research capability would tie in things promising advances that you're seeing at the single cell level, and then how do you look at that and potentially accelerate those findings into short stacks that you could then be looking at full stack systems. So an important piece of what we are trying to do with the research capabilities is that acceleration. We have been working at NREL and all of you and so many other places working on renewable generation and energy technologies for multiple decades. We don't have multiple decades to figure out how to make all of this work, and so acceleration is always part of what we're thinking about when we set up these research capabilities and utilize them. The other piece that I wanted to talk about with these research capabilities is how important it is to partner. And that partnership, sometimes it is with a particular stack or an electrolyzer system or a compressor or hydrogen storage. And sometimes it is with a utility or another partner who's going to use these particular technologies and capabilities. That partnership is also key for us to think about the acceleration and the possibilities that we have as we go forward with hydrogen electrolyzers and fuel cells into the real world. And doing it faster, again, doing it faster than what we have. How do we figure out 40 years worth of advancements but do it in 10? Do it in 5? There's a lot of unknowns when we try to do that, but it's something that we're thinking about. So I want to touch on the large-scale electrolyzer and fuel cell research capabilities. The cartoon that we've got here is at our Flatirons campus, and our Flatirons campus started out as the National Wind Technology Center. So we have renewable generation with wind and PV, and then what we've added is hydrogen electrolysis at 1.25 megawatt. We've got 1 megawatt of fuel cell system. We've got compression and gaseous storage. The snapshot on the upper right-hand corner of that slide would be the actual image for this system. It is going through the final stages of commissioning right now. Pieces that are important or relevant here, we're looking at these megawatt plus size systems, but in a whole renewable energy context or that system. So you can see PV that's located in the back upper right-hand corner, or shown on the diagram here, and wind. One of the opportunities that we're going to be able to use is look at this for long-duration energy storage. It can be used for that transportation application. It can be used for industrial decarbonization applications. Those are all things that we're thinking about downstream. And when you connect those with the upstream renewable generation, we can study controls for that whole system, the dynamic responses, what we need for data, what we need for communications, how do we make sure that it's secure from a cybersecurity perspective. Every time we add more technologies into a system, we introduce vulnerabilities. We need to be thinking about those and addressing those. So I want to wrap up and just give you a couple of research examples to try and help with putting together a little bit of how do we actually use this? Why does it matter? Again, this is a snapshot of the fuel cell and electrolyzer system. There's going to be additional storage, metal hydride storage is going to be added in, and then we're looking at subsurface hydrogen storage as some future opportunities here. So this is going to be very much a living research platform. Heavy-duty hydrogen fueling. We have filled over 80 kilograms in 6 minutes. This is at minus 40 degrees C. There are no fueling protocols to do this. This is a first of its kind for heavy-duty fueling. We're utilizing the Energy Systems Integration Facility, that snapshot of the first diagram I had shown. All of the equipment is prototype. We go through, and as you can imagine, the safety, I talked about safety being one of our research areas. It's also leading for us when we do our own experiments. This is an example where there are no safety protocols, there are no fueling protocols. So we're leveraging our understanding of hydrogen systems, working with industry and other partners to make sure that we do this safely. But this is, we've exceeded, you can see a few of the numbers there, 82.5 kilograms in 6 minutes is the latest heavy-duty fueling system that we've done, or excuse me, the fill. In the snapshot, or in the picture, we're actually looking at the H2 Rescue Emergency Vehicle. I'm not sure if any of you have seen this vehicle. So one of the things that we do with the heavy-duty fueling infrastructure, and we did this with light-duty fueling infrastructure too, is how do you use that when maybe vehicles are coming out for high-altitude testing? We live in the Denver metro area. We're located in the Denver metro area. We also live there for some of us. And so it's a great location to do some of that high-altitude vehicle testing. Like I said, we've been doing this with light-duty vehicles. We're going to see it more and more with heavy-duty vehicles. This is actually a snapshot doing a slow fill for the H2 rescue vehicle. Another piece that's really important here is both US and international partnerships. So when this research, there's a lot of empirical data that we're collecting. That information is going back to the groups, the standards, the fueling protocols groups, to help them understand what's possible for the heavy-duty fueling protocols. Another example of a project is a grid modernization initiative, or a grid modernization lab call project. It's actually partnered with Idaho National Lab and Sandia and NREL. We're looking at a hybrid system. So how do you take renewables with wind and solar and utilize storage with batteries and hydrogen as an example to have a highly controllable system, thinking about day ahead and real-time energy market opportunities. We're going through, this is an example of using hardware to make sure that we are doing validation of our analysis and modeling work, but also looking at what's possible with that analysis and modeling, showing us where the performance targets are. We can also use this type of system to go through scenarios that are out of those conditions of what we've modeled, if we have particular disruptions. This is a real-world-like scenario, but we don't have to wait for a real-world catastrophe to see how a system responds. So we're looking at controls here, looking at demonstrations. One of the things with the combination of physical research assets and virtual assets is to tie in different geological locations. Maybe the wind and solar renewable profiles, for instance. It may change your demand scenarios, whether you're looking at transportation for hydrogen or industrial processes, things like that. So that's an example of where we take physical and virtual assets to combine them together. The last example that I wanted to highlight is another lab-to-lab collaboration, and this is with Idaho National Lab, where we looked at bringing renewables and nuclear generation together. If you've heard virtual power plants, this is an example of a virtual power plant. Distributed technologies and operations, but you operate them in a way that you can get benefit like they were a co-located hybridized system. We had, with this one, we had INL's nuclear reactor, and then we were also looking at renewable assets with solar, batteries, and hydrogen electrolyzers with NREL. We do have more information on all of these research activities and the research capabilities if there's anything here that you would like to see a little bit more on. So what are we thinking about in terms of what's next for research needs? A couple of things. You know, we've talked about low cost or cost competitive technologies. So we need to continue to verify and validate that, especially in that systems context. What are the operation strategies that can help with those cost targets? Those are things that we're thinking about too. Dynamic controls and communications, the safety, the cybersecurity aspects of that is another area of research focus for us. And then the last one is flexible production. Electrolyzers in particular have a proven track record of dynamic response and can be utilized as distributed energy resources. So we continue to look at that and what those opportunities are, especially in different renewable energy generation scenarios. When you get up past 50%, 75%, 80%, how can the hydrogen technologies like electrolyzers help support those goals that get us to 100% decarbonization? That is all I have. I have a little bit of time for questions if there are any.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm curious, since you guys are doing so much research as a national lab, what role do you see utilities in either taking some of the research that you guys produced? What do you think is the most responsible way for utilities to do pilot projects? In what capacity of the value chain? And maybe if you could give me even like scale, if you're going to use $1 million of ratepayer money to do this, this is what you think might be a good.
Oh. All right, I'm probably going to avoid that question. Does it help that I just tell you that I'm going to avoid it though? I don't know. I think the utility question is a complicated scenario because they've got a lot of expectations. A lot of utilities have their own decarbonization goals that they're working for, policy and expectations for their consumers. Where I think we can play a role when we talk about the research capabilities is to help reduce the risk. Some of those decisions have a lot of risk. Some of those decisions can actually have negative impacts on clean energy for all objectives. You can actually push quite a bit of costs into consumers that are traditionally disadvantaged or marginalized. So we can use this research platform to understand some of those risks so that people can go in, utilities, making decisions that last 20, 30, and 40 years. They have a higher confidence of likelihood of success and minimizing those unintended consequences. That said, the utilities have tremendous pressure to move. I do think that if we don't reduce the risk on some of these large-scale decisions, like how hydrogen electrolyzers at widespread deployment will impact the grid operation both negatively and positively, we're going to slow down the transition of clean energy technologies if we don't help reduce that risk. So I don't know that it's really answering your question because of the complexities there, but we have to reduce the risk for people making decisions, especially big dollar decisions that are going to last for decades.
What type of electrolysis did you use pairing the nuclear facility from Idaho National?
Low temperature
Yeah.
PEM electrolysis.
Okay. Have you considered others? And
Yeah.
is that an interesting
Yeah.
area of research for you?
Yeah, actually, so it's actually a partnership that we've got with Idaho National Lab. They look at high temperature electrolysis. We tend to look at low temperature electrolysis, if that's maybe where you're going with
Yeah,
the
that's where it's
question.
going.
So there are alkaline electrolysis systems too that are a possibility, but what we use there is PEM.
Okay. Was that successful?
Yeah, the PEM electrolyzer has a strong record of operation in the renewable generation portfolio or profiles, excuse me. The nuclear one was going through a scenario. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.